welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. Thank you again, everyone here on Patreon, for supporting, sponsoring, and contributing so much. Once again, we're doing question and answer. Go ahead and submit your questions so I can get them answered. I think I'll get that video out Wednesday morning. It has been one hell of a couple of weeks, has it not? You know, it's just, to me, it's been incredible. Trying to keep up with everything has just been incredible. And normally, you know, the topic of Jeffrey P. Stain, right? Talking about someone with these just horrifying proclivities would be something that we wouldn't talk about. The reason we do talk about him and what is happening with him is not only because of his profile, but because of the political climate. And it's not even a political climate. It is a climate that involves international politics. It has a ton of intrigue in it. And it truly is going to play into the course our nation takes in the next 10 years. And it does, of course, affect shit hitting the fan, does it not? Right? SHTF is coming, and this is not going to be the cause of it, but it's going to, it's like a spice that's been added to food. It's going to impart some of its own flavor to it, if you will. And no cannibal jokes involved in that. But what is going on with Mr. P. Stain is quite interesting. Even in his death, right? It's not going to solve the problem of what the information is going to do, right? How it's going to affect our perception, us the people, our perception of politics, finance. The scientific world has even been brought into this, as well as the legal world, right? We've got we got scientists and lawyers, powerful people, power brokers that were involved with Mr. P. Stain. Right? And I call him P. Stain because I think it's funny. But I've got an article here from endoftheamericandream.com. I'll put the link down below. 7 unanswered questions about Jeffrey P. Stain's death that the mainstream media needs to be talking about. Now, there was a big hullabaloo on Saturday when he was discovered dead, right? When we discovered his death. A lot of people said, well, that's going to end it. You know, he's going to be swept under the rug, and that is a valid concern and one that I thought about. I have to think about all the options, and I want to thank you guys who have sent me messages talking about your theories. It seems to be having the opposite effect. It seems to be attracting the attention of, yeah, hey, the FBI, the Attorney General, the Inspector General, the President. The mainstream news is looking at it. They're not doing enough, but they can't ignore it. And what I can't understand is how they could let so many awesome news stories go. See, the media used to be out about getting the scoop, getting that juicy story that the people really need to know about and giving them some inside details and some facts that they can't get anywhere else. Scooping the other guys. Now it's like they're trying to unscoop themselves. Well, let's jump on the bandwagon with the rest of the media, but not go too far. Where is the news organization with hungry investigators who have the platform of mainstream media who could get the story out there, regardless of partisanship, right? When news media becomes partisan, it's no longer media, it's propaganda, right? So as I have developed this channel, I have tried to leave behind the partisanship, but I've got evil versus evil, right? And so you take the lesser of two evils. Anyways, enough of that. We, as the alternative media, and it's not me and other people with channels, it's you as well. You're participating in this. And it's really important for you to recognize your part in it by supporting this type of media exposure that I do and others do. By supporting it, you join with it and you make it more viable, stronger, more important. The more people you tell to join the conversations we're having, the more it has to be viewed by others and understood. And I think that is what has happened with Epstein, is the people, pea stain, the people, us people, regular people, are so enraged by it. And a lot of people are so disgusted because it's the first they've heard about this guy and what he's done, that they don't want to let it go. It is so obvious. It is so, the only thing that has been transparent, non-opaque, has been our view of the elites now. Largely because of Epstein, and we don't want it to go away. I don't. People in the media don't want it to go away. The alternative right media. We don't want it to go away. We want more light cast on it. So it was great that an ex-con, or maybe he's still a con, who knows, and it doesn't matter. He went and talked to the media and said, hey, look, I spent a lot of time in that Manhattan lockdown unit, and I know how it goes in there. That was great. It got mainstream exposure to things I know about, because I've had many friends who have worked in Youth Authority and Suicide Watch, as well as other CDC facilities, learning about what goes on in there and how they do things. Right? Nothing about the pea stain case makes any sense. So it allows us to ask questions like, who benefits and what's the purpose? Why did they do these things? How was it done? And as soon as you say, how was something done, we get into what's known as, right, the big C, conspiracy, right? Because people are conspiring to perform an act and hoping that we don't catch on or understand. But in this case, people are jived to it. We're hip to it. We got it, right? We've got it. So these questions, why are the autopsy results being delayed? According to NBC News, right, the medical examiner's office is requesting more information before determining the cause of Epstein's death. Basically, you have a coroner look at his neck, and if he was supposedly hung, right, they can tell. Did that really hang and kill him? Did it just asphyxiate him? Did it break his neck? Did it crush his windpipe? Autopsy should reveal that very quickly. And if he was, say, drugged, so that he would continue to just hang on something lightly but enough to choke the air out of him so that he expires, they would find the puncture mark. They would find the puncture mark if he was injected, and if he was given another drug that kept him asleep or knocked out, right, that would be in his system, in his blood. It's not like he's been laying in a river or in the desert for a week and everything in him is dried out, right? No, this is really good. If the true Epstein is the one that made it to the morgue. So once again, we can speculate. I'm not saying it's true, but what if they took another body, put it in Epstein's place, and wheeled that to the morgue while Epstein was, shall we say, scuttled out the back door and hauled off in a van? And I might speculate about that a little bit more at the end of the video when we get through the questions. Right, what will the cameras show? By now, most people have heard that there were no cameras filming what was going on inside Epstein's cell. But there were cameras filming the doors of each cell. Right? Now, what's interesting about this is the cameras. Yes, who was going in and out of Epstein's cell. They'll also show us how often guards went by. They'll show us a lot. Now, it is, to me, it's ridiculous to believe that the most important prisoner in the entire penal system, joke intended, was not being observed 24/7 by a camera in his cell. In fact, I don't know why they couldn't put that footage in more than one office. Why he wasn't being watched by federal agents who could have easily gotten a subpoena and a court stamp on it, bam, to be able to view that, because he's a federal prisoner. Why he's being kept in Manhattan, to me, speaks to the idea that conspiracy was involved, that people were pulling strings to get him into not a federal lockdown, high-risk penitentiary, but rather in the heart of the city. Once you get that guy out of the building, whether posing as a corpse or as an actual corpse, he can be taken anywhere. Right? It's incredible, absolutely incredible, that they won't even show us the cameras. If they're not going to show us, they should show both the government and the media, and let them review the last 8 hours of Epstein's life, so that they can report to us, yeah, the guards didn't go by, but once every 90 minutes or 2 hours or whatever, and nobody went in there. But we also know that the government can doctor, can manipulate footage. They can create new footage. They could use old footage and just change the time and the date on it. You see, they could fabricate whatever they want. But that's no excuse for not showing us anything. Right? I think that they have to show us something else, because what they would show us, which is the truth, would not jive with their story, would not look really good at all. It wouldn't look good at all. And then to follow the body from the cell on every camera, from every angle, to the point it was put into the ambulance. It's just, the whole thing smells, which makes it, right? It is the smell of conspiracy. And that's what I think they're afraid of. But how do they hide something so obvious and in our face? Because in order to protect themselves, they have to keep covering up. And the more they cover up and fabricate and lie and postpone, the more we say, why is this case so important? That is what I want to get back to, is why is pea stain so important that they're going to risk the credibility of the FBI, all investigators, the prison system, the Attorney General's office, everything having to do with prosecutorial protection and protocols, as well as penal protocols. Everything is now being questioned and under examination, because it has been sacrificed in order to perform whatever has been done. Whether it's the exchange of one body for Epstein's and he's smuggled out, and we'll get back to that later. The more I think about it, the more I want to think about that. Or he was killed. Either way, it shines a light on them that says, why did this happen? And we need to ask more questions, you and me, and keep these people on the hot seat. Why was Jeffrey Epstein taken off suicide watch? We all heard, or at least I thought, when you go on suicide watch, it is not for 5 hours or 10 hours or 24 hours. If you were Jeffrey Epstein as the prisoner, you would expect them to be watching you 100% of the time anyway. So if you tried to commit suicide, they would be in your cell in less than 60 seconds. Less than 60 seconds. You wouldn't have time to kill yourself. Even if you're not in a suicide cell with suicide prevention blanket, right? A crisis blanket, which isn't really a blanket. You know, you wouldn't be able to do anything without having someone come on down there and take it away from you, or stop you from committing whatever you were trying to do. You know, drowning yourself in the toilet, for example, right? You can't do that the way the prisons are set up. Anyways, why was he taken off suicide watch? Right? Well, you see, they didn't want to put him on suicide watch. The first attempt, which I believe was an attempted murder by that convict murderous ex-police guy who looked like he lived on a couple thousand milliliters of juice, steroids every day. That guy looked like an animal. Looked like Butcher Hicks from the Deadpool movie with Clint Eastwood, the Dirty Harry movie. Anyways, you know. And they said, oh, he tried committing suicide. Why did he have a cellmate in the first place? Epstein, I thought it would be a great idea to give him his own private cell so he can't talk to anybody. Same with Hillary or any of these other high-profile scumbags. I want them to live a good, long life in jail with their own thoughts inside their own head. Right? And if they want to think about escaping or think about a plan or believe that they're victims, let them think that. But let him think it a good long time. Epstein should have never had a cellmate. He should have had a camera. Right? So suicide watch, Right? Okay, he's on suicide watch. He attempted to commit suicide the first time. So why was he taken off? Right? Because they needed to have that as an excuse. Right? In other words, in my opinion, now I'm going to speculate wildly that the moment he was put in jail, it's not a prison, it's a jail. I guess they're all the same if you're inside. But anyways, enough on that. He was put there at that facility to facilitate an escape. He was put in that jail and they've been working on a plan. And if he was on 24/7 suicide watch with cameras all over him, it would be harder to either kill him or get him out of there. If he was on suicide watch, it just makes it that much more difficult, so they took him off of it. To the surprise and chagrin of the world, right? He should have been stuck in there, right? So it's interesting. Number 4, why did guards break prison rules and not check on them every 30 minutes? Even if you're not on suicide watch, guards in prisons and jails walk up and down the corridor and visually inspect the prisoners to make sure they're not trying to kill themselves, they're not digging their way out, they're not doing something they shouldn't be doing, something unsafe, right? They need to keep an eye on them, and that's why they do a visual walk-by. So why weren't they checking on them every 30 minutes? Well, because apparently they'd been working a lot of overtime, right? There's no excuse. They had prison rules. Whether he was a super lockdown federal, ding-dong or not, prison rules were every 30 minutes. So, in order for a conspiracy to occur, in order for an assassination to occur, or a body switch to occur, they don't happen because of Mission Impossible stuntery, right? There's not mirrors and lasers and things put in front of cameras and knockout gas on guards, amnesia gas. They just go in and they take people out. They tell them, you're not going over there. They just stop them. I can't use the real life examples I have because of privacy concerns. When the government or government agencies that are rogue want to commit a crime, they don't need Mission Impossible techniques. They just go in and say, we're doing this, and now it is an official stand down at the point of a gun. Right? You'll do this, you'll shut up, or we're going to kill you later. Now, what's nice about what happened with Epstein is there's so much people pissed off that they're talking about it. They're going off the record. They're saying, I work in that place. I'm aware of these things. And they're letting out information, which is good. The people have had enough of this shit. Additionally, if this was a non-isolation type cell, right? The prison guards, in order to see the prisoners, have to have bars or a grill to look through, which means prisoners can look out. And I don't believe they have one-way glass, but perhaps they do, but I doubt it. So that the prison guards can see in, but the prisoners can't see out. Let's just assume, because it makes more sense and is consistent with what I've learned about prisons and jails. And that is that the prisoners can look out. At the very least, they can see through slot, right? A cuff slot, food slot. If somebody was going down to Jeffrey P. Stain's cell, they would be able to see and hear activity in the hall prior to, right, the oh my God, call the paramedics, right, prior to that. And this idea of smuggling people out of places they're not allowed to get out of, there are tons of movies on that. But getting the surveillance down is throwing a couple of switches in the control booth or the breaker room. Cameras down. Now go in and do your dirty deeds. Make sure the guards stay away, and then declare, oh my God, our poor good buddy Mr. Epstein is offed himself. Right? This is a great question here. Why would P. Stain try to kill himself if he was adjusting so well to prison life? Right? According to a prison insider interviewed by the Daily Mail, P. Stain seemed to be in good spirits just before his life ended. There was no indication that he might try to take his own life. Now, this is fascinating. Fascinating. He was in a good mood. This guy is going to face life in prison. He is, if he is allowed into the general population of any prison, he is going to be in big trouble. We know that prisoners have their own rules and codes and laws that they live by. And suffering someone like P. Stain in their presence wouldn't go real well. Right? So we have to ask ourselves, why was he in such a good mood? The case against him is open and closed. It's just about how much information can they get out of him to find the others. That, of course, is the question, is why is this such a big deal? Why is this so important? So the reason he was in a good mood, in good spirits, was he knew something was going to happen. Now, whether he thought he was going to be broken out and instead they assassinated him and then hauled his carcass out of there, or, right, he thought he was going to get out and they did pull this body switch. Right? They could have pulled the body switch, and he's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Hey, Mr. P. Stain, you are in prison. Pretend like you're in a bad mood. Oh, this guy's getting off the hook. He's getting out. He's been told. Again, high octane, nuclear speculation on my part. But does it fit with the circumstances? Yeah, that's a conspiracy theory. But because they haven't given us autopsy photos, because they haven't given us camera angles, because the guards weren't doing their job, and because insiders are talking, it allows us to put together a puzzle that fits, even though there might be 2 or 3 different pictures. Right? He was assassinated, he was escaped. It still is different than the official story. And the official story has factors in it that make no sense. So we have to discount those. He shouldn't have been in a good mood at all. So if he wasn't in a good mood, well, then he's a suicide risk. Why wasn't he in a suicide risk cell? Well, but he was in a good mood. Oh, really? He was in a good mood. Then why would he kill himself? What would give him cause to be in a good mood? He wasn't going to get off. Right? P. Stain was already a convicted sex offender. And there's so much damning evidence from others and key witnesses that it was he was done. There's no reason he should have been in good spirits, reasonable or not. All right. Why did Jeffrey P. Stain tell guards that someone was trying to kill him? It has been reported by the mainstream media that he previously tried to kill himself, but apparently the report was being directly contradicted by himself, P. Stain himself, right? In other words, somehow it got out, and the story here isn't saying, right? He reportedly told guards and fellow inmates he believed someone was trying to kill him. He wasn't on suicide watch. Someone was trying to kill him, right? Well, probably because that one guy, the ex-cop, convict, murderer, who was a roid rage looking dude, did try and kill him. Right? Maybe the cop killing guy wasn't used to choking out 66-year-old pedos, right? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Why is he happy? Why is he telling guards and inmates? And how was he able to talk to other inmates? Was he yelling out the slot and down the hall? Right? Did he learn prison Morse code really quickly? Who knows, right? We'll find out more. It's going to come out. Because the amount of attention that you and I are focusing right now, and by sharing this video with others, it is going to help proliferate the calls for an explanation that fits all of the facts. How could Epstein kill himself in a prison where the cells had been specifically designed to prevent that from happening? According to a former inmate of the MCC, the Metropolitan Correctional Center, in Lower Manhattan. I mean, that real estate in Manhattan, Lower Manhattan or not, is incredibly expensive, but we need to have a prison there, right? Can't they just put some more rocks in the water next to Rikers and build out on that? Okay. There's no way that man could have killed himself. I've done too much time in those units. It's an impossibility. Between the floor and the ceiling is like 8 or 9 feet. There's a big difference between 8 or 9 feet. There's no way for you to connect to anything. You have sheets, but they're paper level, not strong enough. He was 200 pounds. It would never happen. Everything in those cells is designed to keep hanging deaths from happening. And that is not the only way that prisoners kill themselves. So we are now going to take his word for it, and I'm going to combine it and agree with him with the information I have about prisons and jails. They are designed to limit a prisoner's ability to kill themselves. Because a lot of times, suicidal prisoners don't tell other prison guards and prisoners what their plans are. They suffer a form of depression, and that they plan it out. They're not going to share that unless they're so incurably extroverted that they have to tell everyone everything. So, I mean, it's ridiculous to assume that they would have tools and objects with they could hurt themselves in a prison cell. They're going to be denied those things, right? There's not bars hanging from the ceiling which you can hook things on and tie things to for hanging yourself. They're going to limit everything they can. They're not going to put in things that can be pulled off the wall and used as a weapon. Again, there's as much risk of suicide as there is for having something in a cell which can be converted to a weapon to kill somebody else. For example, during chow time or time in the yard. These are great questions. Now I want to delve into very quickly, well, not really quickly, what if Epstein was escaped? That is, they put a body in position to serve as the Epstein model to go to the morgue so that they can then not show us any morgue pictures of him, not even close-ups, right? Because they may get a mole or not have a mole where it should be, and then people will say that's not Epstein, right? So P. Stain is escaped. He's escaped, right? There was a report that, and this is just wild speculation, that if it was true that it was a guy in a military suit. They said a dress green uniform, which is Alpha's. So someone in full military uniform was in a van where Epstein was put in, Is that true or not? We don't know. But let's just assume that he was escaped by whoever and however. If he was escaped by someone in the administration, right, to protect him, it's because they believe that the information he has is so valuable and that him being alive is so important that they need to give a black eye to the FBI, to the prison, to the Attorney General, to everybody involved in the capture, holding, and prosecution of Epstein. They all get a black eye in order to keep him alive for trial later. Then he must have some pretty damn important information. Or if he was escaped by the deep, dark state, his allies and buddies that flew with him on the Lolita Express. And that, of course, includes now high-level scientists from MIT, supposedly Stephen Hawking, and others in academia, as well as politics, finance, and I would speculate even the military-industrial complex, either the military side or the corporate side or both. Especially now that they finally, even though it may just be a story, this person in the green uniform, that implicates the military. It also implicates the military possibly on the good side. This was a military operation to get him out, to preserve his life, right? Good. Or was it the military is aware of the threat and risk that he is and they want to off him? We don't know yet. But if the bad guys wanted him, we know why the good guys would want him, because they're going to use him to prosecute more bad guys. But if the bad guys are the ones that escaped him, using the deep state power that we know exists because we've seen it exist. It tried committing a coup against the President of the United States. How can anyone deny that the deep state in its evil capacity exists? They can't. It cannot be denied anymore because of what they have demonstrated they're willing to do and how they continue to do it. I mean, Peter Strzok is apparently back at the FBI. What's he doing there? The guy's a disgrace. Anyways, let's get back to Pea Stain. So what is the bad guys going to do with him? Are they going to let him live? Right? Well, if the FBI good guys and the Attorney General good guys are looking for him and trying to recapture him, do you think that the bad guys are going to let him be recaptured? What are they going to do? Give him a facial surgery, change his identity, and hide him in some third world country? Or in Israel or Saudi Arabia or the United Arab Emirates or in Thailand or, where are they going to hide him? But why would they want to allow him to live? Now he is nothing but a liability, right? There's nothing else that Epstein can do for them positively, and he represents a huge risk, so much so that they would escape him. They could have just killed him in his cell, which they may have done. It could be that he was killed in his cell. But why would they want him alive? Seriously. I think it's because they want to find out. And this is just theory, speculative, fun stuff, that they're going to take him and they're going to torture him and find out what he has told the feds. His attorney, I'm sure, said, look, the powers that be don't want you to say a fucking word to anybody about anything. Do not roll over. Do not admit. Do not name names. And I'm sure that he's been escaped, if by the bad guys, and kept alive so that they can find out what he has actually said. And they will, because they're the bad guys, torture him. If he could swear up and down all day long that he did exactly as he was told. And they're going to torture him to find out. A lot of people would say, good, torture him, he deserves it. To me, what is important to note is that they're willing to go to these extremes over Pea Stain. Either to try and kill him in his cell, or to escape him, to find out what he knows and who he's going to share it with and what he has said. And I don't think it's so he can go live a long life on some comfy place in Thailand, right? I don't think they want to let him live. Whether or not they give him plastic surgery and a new identity, which he did have a false fake identity in his safe, right? Claiming he was a citizen of another country. It was expired, I think, or something. Anyways, yeah, he had false ID. He's ready and probably has other false identities that he can assume. But, he's got a very familiar mug. When you see his face, you don't forget it. So if someone runs into him again, even plastic surgery, how do you hide that chin? You can change hairlines, change noses, but those eyes, right? He's got very noticeable eyes. They can change everything else, but that is a big fucking chin. Anyways, it would take a couple months for him to recover from whatever they do to him prosthetically. So the final question is, what did he really know that is making him so valuable to both the prosecution and the defense? Let's just call the bad guys the defense. What could he possibly know? Right? The feds have Anthony Weiner's laptop. The feds should have all that they could get from Hillary Clinton that she didn't smash to pieces. They should have a lot of that information. They should have information from many different sources. They have Epstein's material from his safe, his black book, his notes. I'm sure they have access to all of his email. They know who's gone to Epstein Island because they are all pointing to each other. The media comically is trying to tie President Trump to him, as if that's going to cause President Trump to say, right, let's not prosecute him, let him go, right? Let's sweep it under the rug. It's too late for that. And so that didn't work, and that was a Hail Mary pass. I mean, not even a good one, right? Nobody can throw a 1,000-yard pass, not even me. Anyways, that was a Hail Mary pass, and it didn't fly, literally. So if the prosecution has all of that information about Epstein, all of the contacts, all of the witnesses, people who say, yeah, I was on the plane, but I didn't do this and I didn't do that, including Alan Dershowitz, right? Attorney, famous attorney, who helped get O.J. Simpson off, right? This guy is friends with everybody on both sides of the aisle, perfect lawyer, right? Makes money off of everybody and everything. He was on there and he denies any allegations. But Mr. Dershowitz, if you can remember all the details about those girls, and of course he's going to deny seeing anybody doing anything wrong, right? He should at least remember everybody that was on the plane and on the island, or islands, depending on if he's been to more than one, as well as who was in Epstein's apartment and who was on the phone with Epstein, right? And a smart attorney would probably take notes and put them in his safe of every visit to every high-profile guy like that, you know, to protect himself, right? I mean, that's what a good attorney would do, you would think. But why do they want to keep Epstein alive if we have all this information? As a character witness, people would say he has no character, right? He's scum, right? But on the other hand, well, okay, scum, roll over and tell us everything. Now, the people on the side of the defense, the co-defendants, okay, Bill Clinton, right? Ex-President Bill Clinton. Mr. Peastain says that you were involved in this. And what can Clinton say? Oh, we can't believe him. He's a convicted sex offender, right? We can't believe him. Well, if we can't believe him, if he is so unbelievable, why were you continuing to hang out with him? Why is he continuing to be your buddy? Why are you continuing to see him in parties and go to his place? Right? Ehud Barak, why were you hanging out with him if he's not a credible human? If everything he says is to be dismissed, why would you, in your high-profile position, risk being associated with someone like Peastain? Right? So they can't have it both ways. He's either credible as a witness, or he is not credible, but then that makes everybody who would claim he's not credible suspect by their association with him. You see, as a trial attorney, I would have a field day with this. I would just, because the hypocrisy, the two-facedness of everybody is on their sleeves. And is that why they believe, well, let's just kill Epstein and get rid of him so that we don't have to face that? We'll deal with the allegations on their face value, but not have Epstein pointing to us and then bringing our credibility into question. That's what I think the defendants probably would want. They would want him dead, right? But they would want to find out what he said also. So it would behoove them, if they could and they had the power or the ability, to get him rescued out of there so that they could in turn interrogate him for their purposes. It's really, really, really interesting. And I'm sure sometime in the next 5 years, someone will make a really good movie out of it. But my worry is that it will ultimately be swept under the rug. There will not be high-level arrests and convictions. I hope, though, that they do. And I hope that's why Epstein was escaped and under military control in a safe house protected by some badasses. Name your branch of service and they're badasses. Protected by them, not for the sanctity of his worthless life, but to keep him alive as a witness, to use in the prosecution of others, because it's that important, because there is a system change coming. And maybe we're going to go from dishonest, corrupt bankers, let me try that again, from greedy, dishonest, corrupt bankers over to just regular old greedy bankers. And that our new monetary system will just be looked over by greedy bankers instead of corrupt, selfish, greedy, criminal bankers. If we're going to switch from one system to the other, okay, give me the lesser of two evils in the banking system. Because remember, pea stain was in finance and financiers and politicians, and the relationship between the government and banking and finance and investment is extremely tight. It's funny how every congressman goes to Washington and comes back a millionaire. How did that happen? Right? Because they put their hand out and a lot of money was put in it for their votes. It's obvious. It is inarguable that that's how the game is played. So I would rather have just greedy people working with them rather than greedy, corrupt, criminal bankers. But we're going to get a system change. That's what we're going to get. The system is changing. We talk about it every day. Right? SHTF, it's coming, and it involves the monetary system, the entitlement government system. It involves government debt as well as private debt. It involves your job, in other words. Because all of that up there, right, when it goes to shit rolls downhill. And we're at the bottom, looking up at a tidal wave of shit that could come at us. Right? And we do not want that to happen. We want to minimize that. Hopefully, they're able to minimize, and we'll have a shit it's the fan light. And from our chairs and our positions, I know it is incredibly difficult. It's incredibly difficult to fathom the amount of pressure and to understand the amount of wealth that is out there, the amount of power and wealth and money that is it's at the top, and it's depending on them keeping this system going. They don't want to lose it, but it can't continue to exist as it does. So are they going to trade out of these corrupt criminal bankers for just regular old greedy bankers? Let's hope so. Right? And let's hope there isn't a scorched earth program that can be initiated that will burn everything to the ground and leave us in Captain Caveman shit at the fan. Anyways, I wanted to address this Epstein pea stain thing a little more, a little deeper, and keep you interested, because it's not about Jeffrey and his plane and his island. That's what happened. But what this is about, why it's so important, is because of the big players internationally, including royalty, that are involved in this system of the exploitation of not just girls, but the exploitation of everybody that is coerced into participating in that sick system so that they can blackmail and extort government, finance, science, everything. That's what this is about, is control. Control of the power system. Not getting into power, but controlling the power system that's there. No matter who's in office, they want to control them. That's what this is about. Thanks again for supporting and sponsoring us. And get your questions into Jolene for the Q&A that's going to be coming up. I'll talk to you again soon. Chance favors the prepared mind. Right? Chance favors the speculating mind, because we need to look deeper. Right? Is yours. Bye-bye.